Hi everybody. It's been a while since I've done any kind of an update on things, so I thought you may be curious to see what's kind of been happening recently. So here is a little bit of an update on the Locke clubs. I've gone and gotten everything except the 6 iron, so I even have a driver, which is actually this club here. I'll show you the club here in a minute if I can find it, pull it out. But I thought you might be interested just to see what's kind of been happening for me. So in case you haven't been watching any of the other things, thought I might just also give you guys a little bit of a kind of an overview about what's been taking me so long. As you can notice here on this side and this side, if we were to compare it or have a look at it, this is what it looks like basically when you take these clubs off. The other issue that also happens as well is, if I can see it, yeah, is when you take the grips off, you also have an issue with the top part of this part here and here. These are actually screwed in, and unless you save those, you're going to run into problems later. And the rubber in behind those in most instances is actually parched or vulcanized, sorry, is a better word to use to describe it. So in some cases it's actually really difficult to get those out, but if you can leave those intact, then that's okay. But I've actually had to come up with a bit of a jury rig solution, which was to actually just put a little bit of tape over that edge. I've actually got 2 layers of tape, and I've just used this stuff here. And this is actually what renderers use to layer on your floor between your wall. So imagining, well, this is in fact a wall and your floor. They'll actually put this tape down here as a bit of a barrier to basically stop the render from going in. So you can get a large roll of this for relatively inexpensive. And it's a bit like electrical tape in the sense that it's quite stretchy and flexible and things like that, which if you're trying to use it to kind of cover the edge of that, it's actually fairly useful. However, back to the clubs. So what I've done is I've got a 2 iron all the way through to a 9 iron, which is a putter, and I've taken the grips off, which has left the Pyrotone exposed. And I was thinking to myself, gee, what can I do? I've got all of this material. This is all iron and it's all exposed. And if we kind of zoom in here as well, you'll notice it's a little bit rusty. I've used a little bit of rust killer on this just to basically get rid of that. And for people who may not necessarily see the problem, I thought I'd add an example. This is a traditional rubber grip that you can get, and as you can notice, it's nowhere near long enough to cover this. And my concern naturally is that if you put grips, normal grip, it's probably going to come down to here. It's going to leave about this much exposed. And I was thinking to myself, oh gee, what can I do in order to help cover that? So what I have done is, I should have brought this over earlier, is I've bought myself a whole range of shrink wrap. I've got about 5 meters here, that's obviously been used. And I've got a heat gun, and I've basically been wrapping the shafts up with a heat wrap. And that leaves this part here, kind of, you get a really nice kind of meld. And I've actually got a little Dremel, fortunately, so I've actually been able to just sandpaper or use an abrasive material and just smooth that off there a little bit. But I don't know how much of a difference it's actually going to make in the end anyway, but it's just for my own peace of mind. I tried going on to, and I'll bring those over here if I have them. Where have I put them? Nope. Oh dear me. Anyway, I have, I'll show you what the next step is going to be after that. I have these, which are hockey grips, and these are plastic, rubber, and they've got a thing on the back that, good word, it's got a bit of rubber, or sorry, a bit of glue already on the back there, so you just basically peel that off there and you can just stick it straight onto the back of this. So you don't have to worry about double-sided tape and all of that kind of stuff, and they come in fairly substantial lengths, so that'll be enough to essentially cover the whole entire area of the exposed metal, and hopefully the other part of well is this is shrink wrapped on. It's nice and tight. It's going to be watertight. Hopefully it's going to be watertight, because otherwise, if the shrink wrap hasn't worked in electrical devices, which is what it's designed to use, it means that there's going to be electricity getting in there. It's going to cause things and all kinds of problems. So this should be sufficient to stop any water kind of getting in and underneath and kind of causing issues with exposing the old metal shaft to further rusting and things like that. So I think that that's why it's taken me so long, as I've been researching all the different options. Like I've thought about using whipping up into there and putting wax in underneath, and then how does that work with, you know, putting a grip on over top, and will the grip actually hold on properly, and all this kind of stuff. So I've explored lots of different options, and after thinking about it and exploring all these different options, the easiest solution to my mind was this solution, and I've then started the process of layering tape up underneath, which is essentially what's sitting under here is just a whole lot of tape, then you know, supporting the leather that's there. That you'll see, sorry, dropped you guys there, but if you notice, this wrap here is pretty stuffed, so I am probably going to have to pull this off. It's my preference here to actually leave these old ones here on, and then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to build my tape up to match the same diameter of this, and then when I put this over top of both that and that, there'll be a similar diameter, and that'll hopefully be of a similar diameter to this grip, which is my preferred grip, which is quite wide. This is actually an oversized grip, because I don't know if it's obvious on the camera here, but I've got fairly substantial mitts. But if you were someone who preferred to have slightly more standard kind of grip sizes and things like that, I've built this one up because this one here is open, because I tried to put it on there and I took one look at it and it was just like, no, that's not going to work. So I've had to go through this additional kind of step of putting more on and more tape on, and then the other thing as well is just putting that on there is a way of just stopping the water from getting down into the end of the shaft there, and kind of causing rust to kind of enter in from this direction. Even though, you know, on a traditional club these days, you've just got that little vent hole there anyway, so you know, water does get in and out and things like that. This is also another thought process that I've had as well, because part of the original solution that I had, or another solution that I thought of, is I've actually bought a kangaroo hide, because I'm here in Australia. They sell them on eBay, and I was planning on cutting my own leather strips and then using a tacking that onto there. But just looking at it now, and then looking at the issues of having to put this here on, it would be basically taping that over, taping it in place, and then tacking, which I have. This is in my workshop slash bathroom, which my wife is very kindly letting me kind of use temporarily when I can. But I've got my tacks down in the bottom drawer there, so I had prepared for all of that. But I think that with having this in place, I'm not actually going to need to tack anything down. The only issue I'm not too sure about is what's going to happen when this grip needs to be replaced. Mind you, I've had these grips here and they're a rubber grip, and I've had them for about 2 years now, and they seem still fairly tacky and things like that, so that's not too bad. But this is also, I think, the benefit of having this, and the reason why I'm very glad that I've got this layer here underneath, because they'll get to a point, I think, where these grips will need to come off. It's probably going to damage this tape, and then I'll just have to take the tape off, and then I'll be able to have this layer here underneath as my Pyrotone base, essentially, for the club. and that's going to help to make it easier to get this tape off and all of that kind of stuff later on and things like that as well. So all things considered, I think I've got a pretty good solution to manage and deal with the clubs, and I hope that if there's anybody else who is in a situation where they're thinking, I've taken some old grips off of a Pyrotone shaft, I've got this horrible gap, I don't know what to do with it, or if you've got even, you know, just some old or some new golf clubs and you're thinking, gee, it would be really nice to make them like the older style golf clubs, like with the really long grips and things like that. Then obviously without necessarily needing to go through this step here, you could maybe just get a bit of tape here like this, if you wanted to kind of build it out a little bit, and then you can just use this. Over gripping is the search word that I would put into YouTube. And you can put these down as a base layer, and then another option as well is you can use what's sometimes referred to as a tennis grip or a chamois grip, and you can actually put that over top, and that actually gets it down to a really nice kind of leather finish with a little bit of tacky, a little bit of kind of grippiness in it. And I've found that if you don't like the feel of a suede kind of thing in your hand, you can just use a little bit of extra like leather polish, or I used a little bit of leather conditioner, and I just rubbed that into the surface, and that just basically smoothed the suede out a little bit, and also added a few extra oils and things like that into it. I hope that'll mean that if it goes out to the course and gets a bit wet and things like that, it'll add a little bit of a protection and things like that. So I've been using the suede wraps on some old putters that I've got, just as a way of refreshing the grip without actually having to add any. You don't even need to put like a layer of double-sided tape on or anything like that, because of the nature of the chamois or suede. It actually naturally grips into the leathers, and all you need to do is just put a little bit of pressure initially just to basically hold them in place, and then you just basically wrap them around the old existing shaft. And it's actually a really cheap, efficient way of actually regripping putters if you don't have or don't really want to go to the time, effort and expense of taking off an old putter grip or something like that. But obviously in some circumstances putter grips are so old, so well used and things like that, that it's probably better just to take the grip off and things like that. But the other thing about the chamois is because it's not taped on or not tacked in or anything like that at all, you basically just release. I've used the whipping, so I just take the whipping off, or if you use a little bit of tape just at the end just to kind of hold them in place, you just take the tape off and then they'll just fall away, and you can just replace the grips, you know, in 2 or 3 years or whatever it is, with a fresh chamois. But that's a slightly different kind of thing. But if anybody puts in the comments that they'd like to just see what a chamois grip looks like all done and things like that, I might get that notification, and I'll just upload a quick video. It just shows what a chamois grip looks like over top of an old, very old grip, and it's because it's on putters and things like that, it doesn't necessarily matter too much. So again, just to kind of reiterate what I've done in a very kind of brief synopsis, I had some old leather grips that were just absolutely stuffed and I could not use them. I didn't know what to do initially, so I took the base layer that's on underneath these off. It did not look like this. This is actually slightly different. It was just a paper and tar base. Also, it seems here that this is actually from somebody else who gone through that process before me. They took it off, but they only had the grip to here, and that's left this all exposed. I had to get rid of the rust that was there, and I actually kind of trimmed this down a little bit. It's actually a little bit lower than what it should have been. You can probably see, I don't know if it's very obvious, but this part here looks slightly fresher. I'll just zoom in there so you guys can see. That's actually slightly fresher because I actually trimmed that down a little bit because it was rough. But also it was kind of flaking away and things like that. But so that's that. And then put some shrink wrap. I actually had bought some previously that had glue on the inside, so this one's actually glued on. Some of the other ones that I have are just basically shrink wrap without any glue. And then I've built up layers of tape. I'm still kind of halfway through this one. And like I said, I'm going to get the width of this one to be to this one here, so that when I put this one on top and I cover this one here with these wrap grips, they're going to basically be a similar diameter, so that when I'm gripping the club, it'll feel fairly similar. And then they're going to go in the bag after about a year and a half of finally working through all my different options. And hopefully I'll be able to play a round of golf with them, and maybe, who knows, I might even get a bogey or a double bogey if I'm lucky, knowing how good I am with these kind of clubs. But anyway, thanks very much for your time, and if there's anything further you guys would like me to kind of comment on, just let me know, and I'll catch up. Bye for now.